Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we are immersing ourselves in, well, one of the most enduring maritime mysteries ever, the story of the Mary Celeste.
It really is the classic ghost ship tale, isn't it? Found sailing on its own in the Atlantic.
Exactly. And our mission today isn't just to retell the spooky stories. We've got historical records, legal documents from the time, even modern scientific analysis.
Right. The goal is to move past the myths, the sensational stuff, and try to piece together what actually plausibly happened to those 10 people who vanished back in 1872.
It's a tough one because the official story is basically absence, an empty ship, but popular culture filled that void with, pirates, sea monsters, aliens.
All sorts of wild theories. But when you dig into the physical evidence found on board, and especially when you look at the chemistry of the cargo she was carrying, a different picture emerges. Maybe less Hollywood, but honestly much more human and, in a way, even more tragic.
Okay, let's dive in. Set the scene for us. We start not with the disappearance, but with the discovery.
Right. December 4th, 1872. We're out in the North Atlantic, hundreds of miles east of the Azores Islands, sort of midway between there and Portugal.
Prime shipping lane, basically.
Exactly. And the ship making the discovery is a Canadian brigantine, the 𝐃𝐄𝐄𝐄𝐏, Captain David Reed Morehouse.
And what do they see?
Well, it's a gray, kind of choppy afternoon, and the lookout spots another vessel, about 6 miles off their port bow.
Okay.
But immediately, it looks wrong. The ship is sailing. Well, erratically.
Erratic how? Like storm damage?
Not just damage. It was moving unsteadily, yawing side to side, lurching almost, and sailing northwest, which wasn't its intended course, under very short canvas, they called it.
Meaning not many sails up.
Right. Like it was trying to sail, but nobody was actually steering it. It just looked uncontrolled.
And here's a crucial point, isn't it? Captain Morehouse on the 𝐃𝐄𝐄𝐄, he actually recognized the other ship.
He did. It was the Mary Celeste. And he knew her captain, Benjamin Spooner Briggs. Some accounts even said they were friends, or at least acquaintances. They'd apparently had dinner together in New York just before setting sail weeks earlier.
Wow, okay, so this isn't just some random vessel.
Not at all.
Yeah.
And Morehouse knew the Mary Celeste had left New York a full 8 days before his ship, the 𝐃𝐈𝐕𝐄.
So she should have been way ahead of them.
Way ahead. She was bound for Genoa, Italy. By this point, she really should have been close to arriving, or maybe even there already. Finding her here, drifting aimlessly. That's not just odd, it's alarming.
So what does Morehouse do?
He orders the ship hailed, shout across the water, maybe blow a horn, anything to get a response.
Yeah.
Nothing. Just silence. The wind, the waves. That's it. He described it later as deeply unsettling.
I can imagine.
So he sends his first mate, a guy named Oliver DeVoe, and 2 other sailors over in a small boat to board her and see what's going on.
Right, put yourself in DeVoe's shoes now. Climbing over the rail onto this silent deck, what did he find? Was it chaos? Order?
It was. A strange mix of both. The sails were definitely a mess. The job and foretop staysail were set, kind of pulling the ship along.
Okay.
But the big foresail and the upper foretopsail, gone. Shredded. Just blown out, probably in heavy weather days before.
Right, so evidence of a storm.
Definitely. But then the lower foretopsail was just flapping loose, not secured. Yet most of the other sails, like the main sails, were neatly furled, tied down, like the crew had prepared for bad weather.
That is weird. It's like part storm damage, part abandoned mid-task.
Exactly. It suggests they hit rough weather, dealt with it by shortening sail, but then something else happened after the worst of the storm, leaving those other sails to just rip themselves apart.
Okay, so that's the deck. What about below? That's where the real mystery usually lies, right?
Absolutely. And DeVoe confirmed the ship was taking on water, about 3.5 feet in the hold.
Is that bad? Like sinking fast?
Not immediately catastrophic for a wooden ship of that size, but definitely not good. You'd want to be pumping. Which leads to another puzzle.
What's that?
One of the 2 main bilge pumps on board was dismantled. Just taken apart. Pieces lying neatly beside it.
Why on earth would you dismantle a pump if the ship is taking on water? That makes no sense.
It's a huge question mark. We'll come back to that pump. But the other thing that struck DeVoe was the clear evidence of a very abrupt departure. Not planned.
How could he tell?
Well, the cargo, for one. 1,701 barrels of industrial alcohol. Almost all completely intact, properly stowed.
Okay.
And the crew's quarters. Their sea chests were there, packed with their clothes, their boots, their personal items, oilskin coats still hanging up.
So they didn't pack bags?
Not at all. And the ship's stores. 6 months worth of food and fresh water. untouched.
Wait, 6 months. If you're abandoning ship because it's sinking, you'd take food and water, wouldn't you? That's priority one.
You absolutely would. You take provisions, navigational charts, warm clothing. They took almost none of that.
Just vanished. What about the captain's cabin? Was it different?
That's maybe the most poignant part. It was clearly a family space. DeVoe found women's dresses, children's clothes, some toys. There was a small musical instrument, a melodeon.
A family was aboard?
Yes. Captain Briggs, his wife Sarah, and their 2-year-old daughter Sophia. And DeVoe noted an indentation on the captain's bed, like a small child had recently been sleeping there.
Oh, wow. So this wasn't just a workplace. It was a home, suddenly empty.
Exactly. It paints a picture of normal life interrupted, not a ship preparing for disaster.
So if they left almost everything behind, what was missing? You mentioned the ship seemed uncontrolled.
Right. The key missing items were the ship's single lifeboat. That was gone.
Okay, that points to abandonment.
It does. But what they took with them is telling. Captain Briggs's navigational instruments, his sextant, and his chronometer were gone.
The tools you need to figure out where you are at sea.
Precisely. And also missing. The ship's register, basically its official papers.
So lifeboat gone, navigational tools gone, papers gone, everything else left. What does that combination suggest to you?
It strongly suggests a calculated temporary evacuation. You take the lifeboat to get off the ship, and you take the navigation tools because you intend to find your way back to the ship, or at least navigate somewhere specific, like the nearest land. You don't take 6 months of food if you expect to be back soon.
Okay, that makes sense. It wasn't just blind panic.
Doesn't seem like it. And the final clue DeVoe found was on the ship's log slate, like a chalkboard for noting positions and conditions.
What did it say?
The last entry was timed 8 a.m. on November 25th. That was 10 days before the DeGracia found her.
10 days. And where were they on the 25th?
Right near the Azores. The log put them just 6 nautical miles off San Maria Island. They were literally in sight of land.
So November 25th, near land, everything seemingly under control after a storm. Then nothing for 10 days until the ship is found 400 miles away, completely empty.
That's the core mystery. 10 souls. Captain Briggs, his wife, his daughter, and 7 crewmen gone. What happened in those 10 days?
To even begin to answer that, we need to understand who these people were and what this voyage meant. Let's rewind a bit. Back to New York, October 1872.
Right. Before she became a ghost ship, the Mary Celeste was actually a source of pride and a significant investment. She wasn't some old leaky tub.
No.
Not at all. She just had a major refit. Cost $10,000, a huge sum back then. They'd lengthened her hull, increased her cargo capacity. She was over 100 feet long, 282 gross tons.
So a substantial vessel, freshly improved. This was a serious commercial venture.
Absolutely. And Captain Benjamin Briggs was deeply invested. He wasn't just a hired hand, he was a 4-share owner in the vessel. Her success was his success.
Tell us about Briggs. What kind of man was he? The captain is always central to these stories.
Everything we know points to him being highly responsible, experienced. He was 37, from a long line of Massachusetts seafaring families. Deeply religious, known to be a teetotaler, didn't drink alcohol.
That's important, given the cargo.
Very. And universally respected by other captains and owners. Not the kind of man prone to panic or rash decisions. He wouldn't abandon his ship, his investment, his family lightly.
We actually have a glimpse into his state of mind just before they left, don't we? That letter he wrote.
Yes, a letter to his mother, dated November 3rd. It's full of optimism. He talks about how happy he is to have his wife, Sarah, and little Sophia with him. Mentions Sarah playing the melodeon in the cabin. He says the ship is, quote, in beautiful trim, and he hopes for a fine passage.
Doesn't sound like a man expecting trouble.
Not at all. It sounds like a man looking forward to a successful voyage with his family. Sarah, his wife, was 30. She'd sailed with him before. She wasn't new to sea life. And Sophia, their daughter, had just turned 2 on Halloween.
A toddler on board. That adds another layer entirely.
It does, and it makes their decision about their other child even more heartbreaking in retrospect.
They had another son.
Yes, Arthur Stanley Briggs. He was 7. For his schooling, they made the difficult choice to leave him behind in Marion, Massachusetts, with his grandmother.
So Arthur became the sole survivor of the immediate family.
Tragically, yes. Sarah actually wrote a final note to her mother-in-law just before they sailed, saying she was counting on getting letters from Arthur during the voyage. They fully expected to come back.
God, that's tough to hear. What about the crew? Were they reliable?
Seems so. Briggs had handpicked them. The first mate, Albert Richardson, was actually married to a niece of one of the ship's main owners, so connections there. The second mate, Andrew Gilling, was Danish, 25 years old. and then 4 German seamen, 2 of whom were brothers, named Lorenzen. Seemed like a professional, competent crew.
Okay, so good ship, good captain, good crew, family on board. What about the cargo? You mentioned industrial alcohol.
1,701 barrels of it. Denatured alcohol specifically. Destined for Genoa in Italy, where it would be used to fortify wines.
Denatured meaning?
Meaning it had methanol added to make it undrinkable, basically poisonous, to avoid the high taxes on drinking alcohol. But it was valuable, worth $35,000 back then. That's close to $1 million today.
Wow. So the financial stakes were huge. The total insured value, ship plus cargo, was $46,000.
Massive investment riding on this one trip.
So they finally set sail from New York on November 7th, 1872. And it wasn't smooth sailing, was it?
No, they hit heavy weather almost immediately. Battled rough seas for about 2 weeks. That's almost certainly when those sails got shredded.
But they weathered the storm.
They did. They got through it. And by the morning of November 25th, that last log entry shows them just off Santa Maria in the Azores. They had made it through the worst. They were near land, ready for the easier leg across to Europe.
And then the log stops. The silence begins.
Which brings us to the investigation in Gibraltar.
Right. The Dei Gratia towed the salvaged Mary Celeste into Gibraltar on December 13th. Standard procedure is the ship gets impounded by the Vice Admiralty Court to sort out the salvage claim. How much the rescuers get paid.
Should have been straightforward, right? Finders keepers, basically.
It should have been. But the whole process got completely hijacked by one particular official, Frederick Solly Flood.
He was the Queen's Proctor and Attorney General for Gibraltar. A very powerful legal figure. And apparently, rather zealous. Prone to jump into conclusions.
And what conclusion did he jump to?
Foul play. Immediately. He was utterly convinced a terrible crime had occurred. He saw mischief everywhere and turned what should have been a dry salvage hearing into this massive, sensational criminal investigation.
Why was he so certain? Was there any actual evidence of a crime?
That's the thing. He seemed to work backward. Empty ship must equal crime. The physical evidence didn't really support him, but he pushed forward with these dramatic theories anyway.
Okay, let's break down his theories, because him publicly investigating and then dismissing them is sort of key to why the mystery lingered, right?
Absolutely. Theory number 1, drunken mutiny.
Ah, the classic sailor stereotype.
Pretty much. Flood claimed the German crew must have broken into the alcohol cargo, gotten violently drunk, murdered Captain Briggs, his wife, daughter, and the 2 mates, and then fled in the lifeboat.
Okay, sounds dramatic. Did he have anything to back it up? He mentioned finding things, didn't he?
He pointed to what he thought were suspicious signs. Some marks on the ship's railing he claimed were axe cuts from a struggle. And crucially, stains on the deck and on a sword found in Captain Briggs's cabin that he insisted were blood.
Bloodstains and axe marks sound pretty damning.
On the surface, yes. But his theory crumbled pretty quickly under actual scrutiny. First, the cargo itself.
The denatured alcohol?
Exactly. It was poisonous. It had methanol added. If the crew drank that stuff, they wouldn't go on a murderous rampage. They'd get incredibly sick, go blind, or even die. It wasn't party fuel.
Right. Okay. That undermines the drinking part. What about the evidence? The blood and axe marks?
That fell apart, too. The supposed bloodstains were properly examined by a local doctor, Dr. Patron. His conclusion: not blood, probably rust, maybe mixed with some kind of cleaning agent or fruit juice residue. The stain on the sword was likely just rust, or maybe iron citrate from cleaning the blade.
So no blood. What about the axe marks?
An independent expert, a captain from the U.S. Navy visiting Gibraltar, was asked to look at them. He testified they weren't axe cuts at all, just normal scrapes and gouges you'd expect on the rail of a working ship that had been through heavy weather. Natural wear and tear.
So Solly Flood's dramatic evidence just evaporated.
Completely. No blood, no axe attack, no drinkable alcohol. The mutiny theory was dead in the water, but Flood wasn't deterred.
He moved on to what?
Theory number 2, salvage conspiracy. This one is pretty wild.
Okay, let's hear it.
He actually proposed that Captain Briggs of the Mary Celeste and Captain Morehouse of the Dei Gratia, remember, they knew each other, maybe dined together, were in cahoots.
A conspiracy? How?
Flood suggested Briggs deliberately murdered his own crew and family, sailed the ship to a prearranged spot, abandoned it, and then Morehouse conveniently found it so they could split the salvage money.
Wait, Briggs murders everyone, including his wife and child, abandons his ship to split salvage money. Does that even make sense financially?
Not remotely. Briggs was a part owner. If he completed the voyage successfully, delivered that valuable cargo, his share of the profits would have been far more than any likely salvage award.
Right, and the total insured value was $46,000. Even a generous salvage award wouldn't come close to the profit he stood to make legally.
Exactly. Plus, it required believing this respected, devout captain was capable of mass murder, including his own family, and willing to abandon his other son, Arthur, to become a wanted fugitive, all for less money than he'd make by just doing his job. It's ludicrous.
It completely contradicts everything known about his character and his financial interests.
Utterly. But Solly Flood, still convinced of foul play, had one more target in his sights.
Who?
The rescuers themselves. Theory number 3. Murder by the 𝐃𝐄𝐄𝐄𝐏 crew.
He accused the men who found the ship.
He did. He floated the idea that Morehouse and his crew had somehow intercepted the Mary Celeste out in the Atlantic, killed everyone on board, and then concocted the whole discovery story just to claim the salvage rights for themselves.
Wow, that's bold. Any evidence for that?
Again, absolutely none. There were no signs of a violent struggle on the Mary Celeste. No bloodbath, no bodies, no bullet holes, nothing to suggest 10 people have been recently murdered there.
And practically speaking, how likely was an interception?
Extremely unlikely. Remember that 𝐃𝐄𝐄𝐄𝐏 was the slower ship, and she left New York 8 days after the Mary Celeste. For them to meet in the middle of the vast Atlantic would have required the Mary Celeste to basically stop or slow dramatically for a long time.
Possible, but highly improbable.
Very. And then you have to imagine the 𝐃𝐄𝐄𝐄𝐏 crew carrying out a mass murder, cleaning up all evidence perfectly, and sailing both ships without anyone noticing anything amiss. It just defies logic and the known facts.
So after 3 months of this intense, very public investigation, Solly Flood couldn't prove any of his theories.
No, he completely failed. The court officially cleared Captain Morehouse and the 𝐃𝐄𝐄𝐄𝐏 crew of any wrongdoing.
Case closed, mystery solved.
If only. Here's the crucial part, the sting in the tail, as you called it earlier. Despite clearing him, the court was clearly spooked by Flood's relentless accusations and suspicions.
How so?
The salvage award. They awarded the 𝐃𝐄𝐄𝐄𝐏 crew only £1,700.
£1,700? How much should it have been?
For salvaging a valuable ship and cargo essentially intact. Usually it would have been much, much higher, maybe a third or even half the total value. £1,700 was barely 1/5 of the cargo's value alone. It was seen as insultingly low.
What message did that send?
It basically signaled, we can't prove you did anything wrong, but we still kind of think you did. The suspicion lingered, officially sanctioned by the low award.
So Solly Flood, by pushing these crime theories so hard and failing, actually made the mystery worse. He eliminated all the simple, nasty explanations.
Precisely. He publicly debunked mutiny, conspiracy, and murder by the rescuers. So what was left in the public imagination? Something truly inexplicable, something ghostly. He created the perfect vacuum for myth and fiction to rush in.
And rush in it did. Let's jump forward 12 years, to 1884. A certain young writer enters the picture.
Yes. A doctor at the time, not yet famous for his detective stories. Arthur Conan Doyle.
Before Sherlock Holmes.
Yeah, exactly. He published a short story in the Cornhill magazine titled 𝐃𝐻𝐃𝐂𝐃𝐂𝐀 Jeffson's Statement. And it changed everything.
It was presented as if it were a true account, right?
Yes, cleverly written as the supposed testimony of a survivor from the ship. It was fiction, but it felt real. And it was hugely popular.
And this is where a lot of a persistent myths come from, isn't it? It's important for you listening to know what Doyle invented.
Absolutely critical. First, he changed the ship's name slightly to the Mary Celeste. That incorrect name stuck and is often still used today.
The Mary Celeste. Okay, what else?
He added all the really spooky, enduring details that weren't actually true. The idea of warm meals still sitting on the galley table, half-eaten, pipes still warm, a ship found in perfect sailing condition, maybe in calm seas, and crucially, he often had the lifeboat still present.
But the reality found by DeVoe was different.
Completely different. The ship was, in DeVoe's words, a thoroughly wet mess. Battered, sails torn, water in the hold. Definitely not pristine. And most importantly, the only lifeboat was absolutely positively missing. Doyle's fiction created a much tidier, spookier mystery than the messy reality.
So if we strip away Doyle's fiction and we strip away Solly Flood's debunked crime theories, where does that leave us? We have to go back to the ship itself.
Back to the physical facts, and the most unusual physical fact was the cargo. Those 7,701 barrels of denatured alcohol.
Right. We know it wasn't drunk. But you said it was dangerous for another reason.
It's flammability. Industrial alcohol fumes are incredibly volatile, easily ignited.
Okay, so maybe an explosion. That theory had been around for a while, hadn't it?
It had, but it always hit a wall. People asked, quite reasonably, if there was a big, scary explosion, where was the damage? Where were the scorch marks, the fire? DeVoe found none of that.
Good point. An explosion usually leaves traces.
Usually. But then came a key discovery, looking closely at the salvage records again. Those 9 barrels found empty in the hold.
Yeah. Proof of leakage, maybe.
Yes, but why those 9? The crucial detail, missed for decades, was that those 9 empty barrels were made of porous American red oak.
Okay.
The other 1,700 barrels, the ones that were still full, were made of much sturdier, less porous European white oak.
Ah. So the empty barrels weren't random. They were made of weaker wood.
Exactly.
Yeah.
This points strongly towards leakage, not theft or consumption.
Yeah.
During those 2 weeks of heavy rolling and storms, the pressure likely built up in those weaker red oak barrels, and they started to seep. Maybe quite significantly. We're talking potentially hundreds of gallons of alcohol leaking out.
Hundreds of gallons. Where would the fumes go?
That's the next piece. Alcohol vapor is heavier than air. So in the dark, poorly ventilated hold of the ship, those fumes wouldn't rise and dissipate out on deck. They would sink, collect, concentrate in the bottom of the hold.
Creating like an invisible pool of flammable gas.
Precisely. A huge, unseen, highly flammable concentration of vapor just sitting there, waiting for a spark.
But still the question remains, if it exploded, why no fire damage?
And that question finally got answered convincingly in 2006. Thanks to some brilliant experimental work by Dr. Andrea Sella and his team at University College London.
What did they do?
They tackled that exact contradiction. They built a scale model replica of the Mary Celeste's hold. They couldn't use real alcohol vapor, too dangerous, so they used butane gas, which behaves very similarly chemically. They let the gas fill the replica hold, just like the alcohol fumes would have.
And
they ignited it.
And as to what happened?
The result was spectacular. They got a massive, instantaneous pressure wave explosion. A huge fireball erupted violently out of the replica hatches. It was incredibly forceful, a big bang, but it lasted only a fraction of a second.
A flash, not a sustained fire.
Exactly. And here's the absolute key finding. After this violent, instantaneous blast, the replica holed itself and paper cubes they'd placed inside. Completely undamaged. No charring, no soot, no scorch marks whatsoever.
Wow, so it is possible. An explosion powerful enough to be terrifying, but so quick it leaves no burn marks.
Dr. Sella proved it. It's called a low-order detonation, or a rapid deflagration. Intense heat and pressure, but confined to that split-second waves. It wouldn't set the surrounding wood on fire.
This feels like the missing piece. A terrifying event that explains the crew's reaction but leaves no physical burn evidence.
It fits perfectly. It would have been incredibly loud, a massive boom shaking the whole ship. It could easily have blown the main cargo hatches off their settings, maybe even caused minor damage like those disputed marks on the rail, and it would fill the air with the overwhelming smell of alcohol fumes.
An invisible, terrifying threat.
Exactly. You hear the bang, maybe feel the shock waves, smell the fumes, see the hatches blown, but you see no fire. You just know something incredibly dangerous has happened down there and could happen again.
Okay, so now we have a plausible trigger. Let's try to reconstruct the sequence of events. Put ourselves on the Mary Celeste, morning of November 25th, 1872.
All right. Step 1. The leak in fumes. Over days of rough seas, the 9 red oak barrels have leaked significantly. Heavy, volatile alcohol vapor has pooled invisibly in the hold.
Step 2. The spark. Maybe static electricity built up from friction as the ship rolled. Maybe 2 barrels rubbed together, creating a spark. It wouldn't take much.
Step 3. The flash explosion. Instantaneous. Terrifyingly loud boom. Hatches possibly blown upwards. Maybe a brief flash of flame seen erupting from the hold openings, then gone. Overpowering smell of alcohol everywhere. No visible fire, but intense fear.
Now, Captain Briggs. What's going through his mind? He's experienced, yes, but he's never dealt with this cargo before. He doesn't know about pressure wave explosions.
All he knows is something violent and unexplained just happened below deck involving his highly flammable cargo. He likely fears a second, much worse explosion is imminent, one that could breach the hull or start a catastrophic fire.
And his wife and daughter are on board.
His absolute first priority as captain and as a father shifts instantly. It's no longer about the ship or the cargo. It's about getting the people, especially his family, to safety immediately.
So he orders the temporary evacuation, not permanent abandonment.
Exactly. That explains why they took only the lifeboat, the navigational instruments, sextant chronometer, and the ship's papers. They needed the boat to get clear, and the tools to get back or find land if needed.
And it explains why they left everything else: food, water, clothes, valuables. They thought they'd be gone for maybe a few hours, just long enough for the fumes to clear, then they'd row back.
Precisely.
Yeah.
It's the only scenario that fits all the evidence found.
What about that dismantled pump? How does that fit in?
Couple of possibilities. The shockwave from the explosion might have slightly worsened the existing leak, making pumping urgent. Or perhaps more likely, the weeks of rough seas had already stirred up debris in the bilge water, jamming the pump before the explosion. In the chaos after the bang, they maybe made a frantic, brief attempt to clear it, realized it was complex, and the overwhelming fear of another explosion forced them to abandon the repair and get into the boat.
Okay, that makes sense too. A problem interrupted by a much bigger, scarier problem.
And there's one more piece of physical evidence supporting this temporary evacuation. The towline.
The rope trailing from the stern.
Yes. The 𝐃𝐄𝐄𝐄𝐏 crew specifically reported finding a frayed rope end trailing in the water from the Mary Celeste's stern. This strongly suggests the lifeboat wasn't just launched, it was tethered to the main ship. They planned to stay connected.
So picture it. 10 people, including a 2-year-old child, huddled in a small open lifeboat tied to the Mary Celeste by a rope, waiting just off the ship for the danger to pass.
They're close to the Azores, remember? They think the worst of the weather is over. They've made a calculated risk based on the immediate, terrifying threat from the cargo.
But the Atlantic had one more cruel twist.
It did. We need to bring in the weather data for that specific time and place. November 25th, near the Azores.
What does it show?
Historical meteorological records confirm that a strong cold front swept through that area right around November 24th and 25th. This brought sudden, violent squalls, gale-force winds, potentially up to 60-70 kilometers per hour, hitting unexpectedly.
So just as they're in the lifeboat, tethered, a sudden squall hits.
That's the most likely scenario. Imagine a large wave or a sudden, powerful gust of wind catching the few sails still set on the Mary Celeste, that job and foretop staysail.
The larger ship would surge forward violently,
creating immense, sudden strain on that tow line connecting it to the small, vulnerable lifeboat.
and the line
Snaps. The frayed end found by the 𝐃𝐄𝐄𝐄𝐏 is the final, tragic clue.
The Mary Celeste, perfectly seaworthy despite the scare, catches the wind and sails away on her own, leaving the lifeboat with 10 souls aboard, adrift in worsening weather.
Cut off, hundreds of miles from any major shipping lane by that point, in an open boat, in a gale. Their logical decision to escape the perceived danger of the explosion led them directly into the fatal danger of the storm.
They were never seen again. An understandable error under extreme pressure with the most devastating consequences.
And the Mary Celeste herself just drifted. For 10 days, nearly 400 nautical miles, until the 𝐃𝐄𝐄𝐄𝐏 stumbled upon her. A ghost ship created not by the supernatural, but by chemistry, fear, and bad weather.
What happened to the ship after it was salvaged? Did it ever escape the curse?
Not really. She sailed for another 13 years, but her reputation followed her. She passed through 17 different owners. Nobody seemed to want to keep her for long.
Became bad luck.
Exactly. And her end was almost fittingly ignominious. In 1885, her final captain, a man named Gilman C. Parker, decided to cash in on her notoriety.
How?
Insurance fraud. He loaded her with a deliberately worthless cargo, supposedly valuable goods, but actually just junk, and then intentionally ran her aground onto the Rochelaise Reef off the coast of Haiti, planning to claim the insurance money.
Did it work?
No. Ironically, the sturdy ship that had survived so much refused to cooperate. She grounded hard, but she didn't break up and sink quickly enough. The fraud was discovered, Parker was prosecuted, and the Mary Celeste was just abandoned on the reef, left for the waves, and time to finally break her apart. A rather sad end.
And the human cost continued, didn't it, with Arthur Briggs, the boy left behind?
Yes. Arthur was raised by his uncle, who was a clergyman. He lived a very quiet, unassuming life, worked as a bookkeeper in New Bedford, Massachusetts. He did marry eventually in 1906.
Did he have children? Carry on the family name?
Sadly, no.
Oh.
He and his wife never had children. When Arthur passed away in 1931, at the age of 66, the direct family line of Captain Benjamin Spooner Briggs ended with him.
So when you put it all together, the enduring power of the Mary Celeste story comes from this perfect storm, doesn't it?
It really does. You've got the genuinely eerie, documented facts of the discovery, the empty ship, the missing boat, the personal items left behind.
Then you have Solly Flood's investigation, which dramatically ruled out all the simple crime explanations, leaving that vacuum.
Then Conan Doyle fills that vacuum with incredibly memorable, spooky fiction that blurred the lines forever.
And underlying it all is the undeniable human tragedy. The lost family, the orphan son.
But cutting through all that, the scientific explanation, based on the cargo, the UCL experiments, and the weather, provides a really powerful, coherent narrative that fits every single piece of the physical evidence.
The leaking red oak barrels, the pressure wave explosion, the temporary evacuation with navigation tools, the snapped towline in the squall. It all lines up without needing ghosts or pirates.
It's the most plausible sequence of events we have, grounded in physics, chemistry, and meteorology. The only absolute certainty missing is, well, the final testimony of those involved.
Because that final decision was made under immense fear and pressure.
Exactly. They took that certainty with them into the Atlantic.
So let's leave our listeners with a final thought. We've presented what seems like the most logical, science-backed explanation. But put yourself in Captain Briggs's position for a moment.
It's November 25th, 1872. You've just survived a terrifying, deafening explosion from your dangerous cargo hold. You don't see fire, but you fear a catastrophic second blast is coming any second. Your wife and your 2-year-old daughter are right there.
Your instinct, your duty as a father, screams to get them off the ship now. Do you make that same choice? Prioritize their immediate safety in the lifeboat, trusting you can get back even knowing a storm might still be brewing.
Would you have tethered the boat and waited, hoping the danger would pass? It's easy to judge with hindsight, but under that intense, immediate, unknown threat.
What would you have done? The sea rarely gives up all its secrets, but sometimes understanding human psychology under extreme pressure offers the clearest glimpse into the heart of a mystery.
And so, another chapter closes. For more journeys into history's forgotten files, please like and subscribe. Your next story awaits.